Well, hello, friends of the European spirit. Christopher Nolan is, in a sense, the great filmmaker of time. Just think of Memento, Tenet, of course, and especially Interstellar. These films play with time, and they also seem to be breaking linear time. But in what sense? I think they do so. They focus only on, however, technological time, clock time, time that can be measured and quantified. In Interstellar, this is very explicit. Interstellar ends on the note that everything can be quantified, even love. And I think this is why he is barred from understanding Homer's Odyssey. It is his technological quantified understanding of time that prevents him from understanding Homer, because in Homer, Kairos, chirological time, is at the heart of everything and not Chronos. The Greeks had two different ideas of time, Chronos and Kairos. Chronos, we could say, is the ticking, measurable, sequential time of the clock, to put it simply for us. And Kairos, however, is the fated, is the ripe, is a decisive moment, the moment of an opening. And these openings, they come and go and they open up their own times, as it were. They're not along a linear timeline. Here's a moment, there's a moment, there's a moment, there's a moment. No, they are times of their own. We, of course, in our modern time run on clock time, on Chronos. And so do all of Nolan's films, even those that try to break with linear time. They do so only in this quantified sense. But Homer's Odyssey is itself kairos, chirological. It is that Odysseus comes home when the time is full. And throughout his journey, there is a chirological sense to everything. New times opening up. So it's not as though he comes home too late or after 20 years or just in the nick of time or just on time. He comes home when the time itself is full and invites him to come home. And of course, it is Nolan's great genius to spatialize time. Again, just think of Interstellar. So, for example, in Tenet, he makes time something that can be reversed. Or in Interstellar, he makes time something that can be stretched. And of course, also shuffled, as we see in Memento, another great film. And this is remarkable art in a sense. It shows how far cinema can go and still be appealing to a broader audience. But notice what that presupposes, that time is indeed measurable and measurable only and first, and that time is chronological and then bent, stretched, shuffled, and that time is in a sense parametrical, but also a spatial dimension through which we can move and which as such can be manipulated. So here, what Nolan does is he raises Chronos to the highest cinematic power. And I think that's why so many of his movies are so powerful. And even though when you read Homer's The Odyssey to us as modern day readers, we recognize it as not being a linear story, then it somehow bends chronology and sometimes we get lost and don't quite know where he's currently at. What we have to understand also is that this points to a deeper goings on, to a deeper event of time, which again is chirological time. Odysseus may wander for 10 years, he may return after 20 years of absence to Ithaca, but these years don't matter as much as what he undergoes, which is the ripening and itself that is afforded by chirological time. We cannot even then perhaps also replicate. We couldn't say one has to be gone for 10, 20 years, and during that time one has to do this, that, and the other in order to achieve this, that, and the other. It is that once the kairos is right, once the opening is there itself, that is when he is able to return. It is the kairos that invites him to return. So the amount of years don't matter in a sense. We also have to consider the different experience of time in general. In Homer's time and in the Greek time, every film has a very precise length down to the second. And as you know, when you watch something, on your own, for example, even just this video, you might look at how much longer is this? How much longer do I have to sit through this extremely tedious and boring video here, or this very tedious and boring episode of the show that I like to watch? And the same we could do, but there's a specific runtime. And of course, when we listen to an epic being sung, there's no specific or precise time this is going to last. We don't know how much the rhapsode will reside in this current sitting, what the muse sings through him and to him as he sings of the epic. So, this kind of song, this kind of singing and hearing and listening to it, that is itself an occurrence of Kairos. This kind of an opening of a time onto itself that invites Rhapsode as well as listeners in this communality, in the community of hearing and singing, of hearkening and speaking, and of receiving the divine message from Mnemosyne, the mother of the muses, and of memory itself. That receivership is, of course, entirely gone in modern cinema. Modern cinema is a transmission of a very specific, underlying, sometimes also esoteric message. And it's a very specific technological experience of time, just the medium itself. And hence, that I think is the difficulty in trying to capture that which cannot be captured, the Homeric epics. They cannot be captured by film at all. And for that very reason, for the reason of time, of Chronos versus Kairos. And so before I continue, I'd just like to invite you to take my course on Homer's The Odyssey and read this text with me and see for yourself why it should be impossible, once we understand the importance of time, but also of the gods, to turn this into a movie in the first place. And just to point this out briefly, this is also the best way to support my work here on this channel. So thank you. And let me just perhaps name what cinema in general just can't show. Recognition, for example. When Penelope recognizes Odysseus again in the end, she knows him by the olive tree bed, or the moment that his scar is seen, the moment that Argos dies, the moment he's reunited with Telemachus, the moment he's reunited with Laertes, with his father. These are not points along a timeline that you tell, even if you bend time, you try to reshuffle it, etc. But they are the fullness of time of Kairos itself that breaks in and opens up a time and a space of its own. And this is something we have lost, because for us, time and space are parametrical, they're even, they're homogeneous, and hence they're things literally that we work with to control the world. And on film, this Kairos of Penelope recognizing, seeing her husband again, must, of course, just become, by necessity, the necessity of the medium and the whole machinery around it must become, of course, a scene, well positioned. And then, of course, it has to be well positioned and well presented for the highest effect. We want that emotional effect that comes with it. That is not at all how the Greeks would have experienced in listening that moment of recognition. So this timing for effect subordinated, of course, to runtime. Scenes like these are shot for maximum emotional effect. So here Kairos is quietly converted into Chronos. For in the moment, the Kairos in which Penelope recognizes, sees her husband again, recognizes him as him by the olive tree bed, that's when Kairos itself opens up a time of a space that is about to recur for the rest of their lives. And that in this recurrence opens up another entirely different Kairos or time going forward, but also going backward. Now all is changed utterly. It is precisely not a sequence. Now there's a certain fullness to it. There's a sense to that homecoming, to the entire olive tree. It's now all coming together in this one moment for good and to recur from that moment onward. And as such, we could even say that it has always already happened. So none of this is about Nolan's limitations in this sense. It is about our limitations, or perhaps our perception of time today, which is so vastly different from the ancient, not just understanding, but perception of being in time than ours is. Of course, this is what a movie can never show because it has to work in this way. And even if time is bent, stretched, reshuffled, it is all just within the logic of enframed chronological, technological, quantified time. But what the Odyssey should invite us to do is precisely something other. Is it should invite us to understand that time, more originary time, is chirological and mnemonic first. It is of memory and it opens up a space to memory, and it opens up also in this very moment is a continuous opening up that then recurs in a future to come. And this cannot be shown. And it's also very difficult even to write on this because these are non-linear goings on. The fullness of time breaking in is something I want you to remember what that might mean. Try to experience this in your own life, perhaps. When Odysseus returns, it's not that he's on time or too late or should have come earlier. It's rather that he can only return in this Kairos because the time now is ripe. He had to go through all of this to return in the way that he did. So when you read the Odyssey, maybe you'll do so with me in my course, then watch out for these moments of chirological time showing itself. Because if we have lost, we might not be able to regain fully because we do live, after all, in the technological age. But even within that, there are openings, chirological openings that the camera simply cannot capture. So thank you very much for listening. And again, if you'd like to support my work on this channel, take a course at the Halcyon Philosophy Academy. Thank you.